Hello everyone, this is Funimation here, and today I have yet another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story. Now, before I jump into the video, I want to make a quick disclaimer that I am not taking any requests at all. So please do not ask me to write a story because I will not be doing it. I'm sorry, but I can't do it. Read the pinned comment down below if you're wondering why. This is a 2016 Raphael X Mutant gender neutral reader, and the title is something called Scars. And before I progress into the story, I want to give a quick few reminders of the story. One, while this is a mutant reader, I did allow the reader to allow the opportunity to choose what kind of mutant they wanted to be. It's also gender neutral, of course, so you can be whatever gender you want to be. In fact, in the progression of the story, you are just simply referred to as you. And the real thing I really want to get out of the way right now is that this video may have a potentially triggering topic of self-harming. Now, please note that the reader does not have any sort of depression or suicidal thoughts in this story. They just simply do it because it's relevant to the plot. And this is also a soulmate AU, and it will make sense later on as to why the reader self-harms, but if that's going to be an issue for you, then this is just not your video. Please click away now. I will totally understand. So without further ado, this is a 2016 Raphael X Mutant gender neutral reader, and it is simply titled Scars. Let's get started. Being a mutant animal in New York City was far from easy. You typically lived in abandoned buildings and quiet alleyways. But what made the time of silence and empty moments of living in the city interesting was the fact that you had recently discovered that you had a soulmate. You at first paid no mind to the scars that decorated your skin, as you simply thought that you had been more clumsy than normal. After all, you had a tendency to be a bit of an airhead every now and then, so you didn't pay any mind to it. But then one day, you noticed a really bad scar on your wrist. It seemed really deep. It didn't hurt or anything, but it seemed strange to you that there was such a deep cut on your wrist. You knew you could be ditzy sometimes, but you definitely remember getting a mark like that on your wrist. Eventually, this became a recurring thing. You began to think that maybe, just maybe, you had a soulmate. You were a bit startled by this revelation because you're a mutant animal, and you did not think you could have one. Soulmates were rare enough as it was for humans, so the fact that you could have been one of the lucky ones made you pretty elated. Eventually, you decided to seek out your soulmate. You initially were lost as to how to start looking for that being, but you had decided that you could start by one way. You were apprehensive as to how you were going to start, but you decided that it could work. You decided to start by self-harming. You knew you had to be careful with this method because you could potentially get hurt by doing this. The only reason you decided to do this was because you wanted to make your soulmate aware of your existence. One night, you had come back home to your home base, if you will, after stealing some pizza from a pizza parlor nearby. When you finished eating, you decided that you would just try to get your plan rolling. So you grabbed a small pocket knife you kept handy for emergencies. You flicked it open and tested the waters by pricking your index finger with the tip of the blade, wincing at the pain for a moment. You then waited to see if it left a mark. But much to your dismay, once the bleeding stopped, you saw no mark left. You then dropped your blade downward and began lightly slicing into the skin. You winced and bit back a hiss of pain. After a few more testing cuts, you decided to get a little bit creative. You cut into your arm in a few small patterns. You eventually stopped to clean up the blood. After all, you didn't want to pass out from blood loss. Once you finished cleaning up your arm, you bandaged your arm and decided to get some rest to clear your mind. Once you awoke, you figured you can see if your cuts had lasted. The next morning, you awoke to the blinding sun through the boarded-up window of your base. You got up and immediately unwrapped the bandages on your arm. You were pleased to see that the message you had cut into your arm had lasted. You had made a message last night while cutting into your arm, making it say, "Hi." You were pleased to see it had lasted. Then later on in the day, you decided to head down to the sewers to clear your mind of the raging thoughts in your head. You walked around the tunnels before hearing voices from a distance. You immediately pulled out your pocket knife, nervous you may have to use it for the first time on a thread. When suddenly you had caught sight of a red-masked turtle mutant creature with his back or shell facing you. Your heart raced as you tried to turn to leave, but fate decided to be cruel. You had stepped on some sort of canyon and had officially given away your position. You felt your heart pick up tenfold when you felt a sigh, but you pulled to your neck from behind. Who the shell are you, and what are you doing in our lair? The voice yelled. You flinched to the volume of the masked turtle's voice. You spoke in a hush. I called myself your name, and I was just going for a walk in the sewers. I didn't know that a mutant turtle thing lived here. The turtle seemed to ponder your answers for a while, and eventually released you. You sighed in relief. He leaned towards him and raised your arm to your head, but he then gently grabbed that arm and looked at the scarred message you made last night. Wait a minute. Where'd you get this? I made this to communicate with my soulmate. Why? He then blinked once and held up his arm to show that he had the exact same message in his arm. You blinked in surprise, then shock, then happiness, then surprise again. You're my soulmate? You said. He smiled. Guess so. Well, if that's the case, can I at least know your name? Raphael. I know that I said that this was a 2016 story, but I actually think in the middle of writing it, instead started to envision 2012 Raph without realizing it. So I added the hamato there at the end of the story, but I decided to make that optional in case you didn't want to imagine 2012. But I'm really pleased with how this story turned out, and I do plan on making a soulmate AU for all of the turtles. I don't know how long that's going to take, but hopefully not too long. But I at least want to finish the other Raphael story first before cracking on that. But yeah, I'm sorry if this took so long, and I'm also sorry if this was a little bit triggering for you guys, but I hope that it was nonetheless worth it. Thank you all so very much for watching, and as always, it's Friend and I'll be seeing you all very soon. Bye-bye!